Hello everyone, my name is Panos Vlachopoulos and I am a Senior Project Fellow at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University Education and Development Center. Today's presentation is part of an 1-hour-long interview process for the post of Lecturer in Learning and Teaching at Aston University in the United Kingdom. As part of this presentation, I was asked to consider and present in no more than 15 minutes a strategy that would engage research-focused staff in a compulsory PG Cert in learning and teaching in higher education. Well, you have sent me a quite difficult journey to take today, and I shall try my best to progress and make some progress today without falling if you want over the hazards of this task. Also, I know that I have my camera switched on, but I know that it takes a long part of the screen, so I will switch off my camera now that you've seen me, and I will continue with the PowerPoint so you can focus on what I'm saying and what I'm presenting as opposed to my face. I hope that's okay with you. Well, my immediate challenges in regard to these tasks are that it's clear from what I have read about Aston that you already have a well-developed learning and teaching culture which is earning strong approval from students and elsewhere. I read, for example, the National Student Survey and the results for Aston through 2006 to 2008. So how then to suggest enhancing that? And further, there is the problem that I could not really begin to address the task you have set in practice without first informing myself in much more detail about the views of present and recent participants of the program. Additionally, the topic I've been given is directly relevant to one of the hot topics in learning and teaching in higher education, that of the linkage of teaching and research in higher education. So before I start the presentation of the proposed strategy, or better the associated tactics, let's have a look at some of the factors and issues that should underpin my thinking as contemporary education development and academic in Aston. Well, I need to begin by reminding myself of what I learned to be the core value of taking an Aston PG Cert in teaching and learning. So, teaching as facilitating learning, constantly seeking to improve their practice, and doing so in a reflective and theoretically informed way. Now, I have underlined two major words here. The description professional highlights that participants in such programs are here to further enhance their role as professionals in the facilitation of student learning, and the word constantly stresses that taking part in such a program is only the beginning of what is ought to be a continuous professional development journey for university staff in a rapidly changing higher education landscape. Both concepts are important when considering how we can best link the design and facilitation of such programs with relevant pedagogic research, or considering how we can best support the CFD of our target staff, the research-focused staff, with future events and also future programs. Now, I'm sure that you don't need this slide to remind yourself that learning and teaching in higher education is not monodimensional anymore. No more does an expert and research-focused teacher offers his or her expertise in a familiar style with familiar content to a homogeneous cohort of higher education students. Instead, higher education today requires a constant adaptation to a number of local and global challenges that are usually reflecting in an institution's strategic or corporate plan. Some of these challenges are shown in this slide. For example, globalization and internationalization, employability and lifelong learning, technology, societal changes in the way that we all learn. With this in mind, I personally believe that we, as educational academic developers, have opportunity to turn these challenges into opportunities to improve teaching and learning through careful design of staff development events, postgraduate programs and other CPD opportunities. This will enhance the ability of our participants to get involved not only with learning and studying about effective learning and teaching, but most importantly with pedagogic researching of their own practices. This is why we need to consider putting in place a strategy to enhance staff with research through a PG Cert higher education or similar. I'm sure that in this way, the research-focused staff will find the motivation and the impetus to combine their disciplinary research with the pedagogic research. Well, here are some of the ideas that I have. But before that, a general thought and a general principle. For every strategy to be successful, or at least to maximize the chances of being successful, there is a need to decide the route towards making this happen. We call these decisions tactics, and many of us at the early stage of our careers as academics may well be asked to advise on tactics to make the university-wide strategy a success. If, on the other hand, we simply decide on tactics without clearly understanding and linking back to the strategy, then perhaps we make too much noise before our defeat. But where we can find the overall strategy in the context of this presentation? I had a look at the Aston 2012 strategic plan, which was published I think in 2008 if I'm right, and I was attracted by this statement. I thought it would be useful to present my strategy and associated tactics in 3 parts, reflecting in this way the areas of responsibility that the new lecturer in learning and teaching in higher education will be expected to engage with, to get involved with, either as a direct contributor or as perhaps a critical colleague. So, part of the objectives for Aston is to become a center of excellence in learning and teaching, to deliver a world-class student learning experience within a research-informed environment, that's really important, through the curriculum design, assessment and evaluation of the practice, and informed by pedagogical subject-based research, and by enabling staff to exploit novel and effective learning and teaching practices. On that basis, I firmly believe that research-focused staff can welcome the opportunity to engage with activities which will allow them to experience for themselves the process of constructive inquiry into their teaching. So, as I mentioned earlier, the 3 different levels, the module level, the program level, and the institutional level. At the module level then, I would make sure that I model good practice in linking research and teaching in the area of teaching and learning. This will mean that as a module leader, I will show myself as being up to date with current and emerging practices in learning and teaching and the research within which the issues were founded. This is also will be reflected in the way that together with my students, we try to engage not only with the content of the particular module, but also with regard to researching deeper into the issues and using this new information and knowledge to improve the content of the module, but also to explore its transferability to the students' particular discipline areas. In recent past, actually up until a few months ago, I was involved with the design and facilitation of 2 modules that were designed with a research-focused audience in mind. One was at now ended on Napier, the MSc Blended and Online Education, and the other was at Massey University, the Master of Education in E-Learning. Some of the basic tactics translated into activities which I had used to engage my students with both the content and the process of researching the area of learning and teaching in higher education were, for example, thought discussions to provide enhanced learning opportunities. This essentially involved participants tackling their choice of questions relating to the theme of a particular unit and sharing their views, experiences and perspectives on readings and further research within a wider group. Also, participant-led seminar. In this case, my participants are getting a more extended learning opportunity, and what is meant by participant seminar is that the students themselves, they are leading the seminars, they are discussing in their groups, they are researching an area, and then they are presenting the content in the format of your choice. Moving a bit deeper, establishment of an education reading group within a module where students will come either in a face-to-face class, or if it was in a blended approach, I will be using a video camera or a web conference, and they will read and research a particular piece of educational research, for example, a paper on assessment or a journal article on the use of constructive alignment and the solo taxonomy and so on. So they will get used to the terminology, they will get used to the ideas, and they will research it for themselves. They will take out what is important for their practice. And also the evidence-based portfolios, which could become then a reference of future, to go back in the future either for an appraisal or to continue with their own program. Now, at the PG Cert program level, I think for the tactics outlined at the module level to be successful, there must be in place a set of general program level tactics which we can associate. This can include some of these points. Teaching adopts a research-based approach such as an inquiry-based learning. Personal development tutors help participants to set relevant learning and teaching goals. Research interest groups recruit participants and others in the university with common educational interests. Participants learn about research methods in education, in particular action research, through carefully designed activities and assignments. Participants have the option to take specialized education research methods and practice modules. Participants will then have the option to progress towards a higher degree in learning and teaching, which will be recognized, promotion, appraisal, and so on. I would like to go back to bullet point number 3, which is the idea of a RIG as opposed to a SIG, a research interest group. An idea or an expanded idea of that will be that this group will organize also events, for example, writing for publication in teaching and learning workshops, which will require people taking different modules over a particular program to consider a publication they want to take out at the end of the program and get the idea and get started by doing it. Other part with the research interest groups is, I know, for example, other institutions, they do similar things in the United Kingdom, but also where I was in New Zealand and Australia, where we can have a more global aspect of it. So RIGs, they can be joined together nowadays with technology, and we can have invited people from other areas in order to expand a bit this idea of doing collaborative research together. Now, I would like to say that if I want to link back to the overall strategic priorities of the university, there must be some support from the top level. In our case, it will be the VC, academic development, or similar. Within the role of lecturing and learning and teaching through their active participation to various committees within the university, and definitely the LTA committees, I should be prepared to make recommendations and influence the designs and decisions as outlined in this slide. So, the Vice Chancellor will be looking at various occasions to get LTA committees involved with setting new and specific practices in place to further enhance, although as I mentioned it's quite strong the case of Aston, but to further enhance any already positive ratings. So how we can do that? It can be that the promotion depending on evidence of current and past teaching enhancement through action research into their own practices. At interview level and on appointment, staff to commit themselves to a specific plan for education development. Now that's something that's been happening in other universities, I think even from the 1970s. Annual 6-year action plans to prioritize learning and teaching go on for 2, and similarly proactive responsibility in review for a further 2 years. Head of schools, head of departments or faculty boards to appoint peers to assist any member of teaching staff with rating fall below a high standard. Organize staff conferences and symposia in areas related to learning and teaching, encourage staff to participate, and strengthen the recognition of the professional value of a PG Cert in higher education, academic appraisal, promotion, access to funding, and so on. So, I would commit myself in the PG Cert higher education and elsewhere to action research my practices in one course with participant involvement, use my own ongoing research as part of the content and source of activities, welcome participants to join me if you want in the work that I do if they wish so, and all of which will entail risk, which has been a feature of my career to date. So, I want to mention that I found many times through my PhD, through my early academic years and even now, that going near the edge, it makes it easier to be nearer the edge next time. So, any questions? I'll be online and I will take any question with you. Thank you very much.